Before we begin today's panel, we would like to extend a special thanks to the Expo team, the Women's Pavilion, and Cartier for having us today. Today, we're going to discuss Irthi's research on innovating the date palm toward finding ways to bring the date palm to the textile industries and finding ways to extracting fibers. Through such activation, we're able to gather here today in a prestigious event to present and discuss the importance of developing sustainable ecosystem to operate within using the UAE's natural resources. To start with, I would like to thank our panelists for joining us on this panel today and to highlight the importance of such activation. We have here with us Ghaya bin Mismar, Dr. Sandra Paisik, and Dr. Margarizda. Dr. Sandra Paisik specializes in the adaptation of traditional knowledge. She has worked extensively in the Middle East, and her projects focused on reconnecting the traditional knowledge systems with the modern application toward pioneering the date palm leaves into textile. She's the founder of 3 Ideas Ltd, where she focuses on the support of policy and consultation at the rural sector. She has published various works on the Arish, or the Emirati old households. Dr. Margarizda. She's a doctor who works in the Institute of the Natural Fibers and Medicinal Plants in Poland. She has graduated from the textile sector. She also is the director of the institute, and she has worked within the Department of Innovation and Textile and Technologies. Her main area of interest is focusing on fiber processing and technologies toward evaluation and finding ways toward applying fibers and extracting fibers from various natural floras and resources. Ghaya bin Mismar. She's here with us. She's an Emirati designer from Irthi Contemporary Crafts Council. She focuses on research and the crafts development. And myself, Shad Al-Hammadi. Due to our time frame, we won't be able to take questions. However, the panelists and our team would be very happy to speak to you after our panel. Once again, a warm welcome and thank you for coming here today. The research that we focused on at Irthi Contemporary Crafts Council focuses on finding ways toward innovating the date palm toward the sustainable sector by finding ways where we can extract fibers and bringing it forth into various innovative ways for the UAE's economy. In this panel, we would be including the findings we have researched upon throughout the years, and we would be presenting to you new ideas that we could find into innovating the fabrics that we have extracted from the date palm. The date palm has been a part of the UAE's culture for centuries. The tree is considered one of the oldest fruitless trees in the world. As in the UAE, it is considered one of the largest products that we have exported, and we are still exporting. As in the UAE, this tree is considered one of the natural resources that we identify with, culturally and with the Islamic customs. Dates are abundantly available in the UAE, and they play an important role in our society. And for this high significance of the date palm and for the Emiratis, Al-Khus, which is a name we give to the date palm leaves and fronds that we use in our crafts in the different ways, like creating a thaqafa in our crafts. And for this reason, could you, Ghaya, please let me know what you think about how we could take forward this date palm and how could the Emiratis relate it to our identity?
I believe the date palm has defined the UAE's culture. Historically, this tree was a tree that people preferred to have in the courtyards of their houses because it would mitigate the summer air temperature and it would provide shade during the day. And at one point, it also reflected a family's social standing. When someone saw a house with a palm tree, they would assume that that house would not go hungry and that it was a suitable house to marry into. It taught its community to be resourceful, where they utilized all parts of the tree, where they made houses, which we all know as al-arish. They made ropes from the mesh of the tree, and they made many household items as well. It was quite essential for survival. I can't imagine how they would have survived without the palm tree back then. Today, it's an asset to the UAE's economy and the environment, where it plays a role in fighting desertification and support of climate change. On a personal level, I'm quite fascinated by this tree, and I seek inspiration from it in my personal practice, whether it's form, texture, material, or color. And what was more inspiring was visiting an oasis with Dr. Sandra Paisik in Sharjah and Al-Date, where we got to see the amount of agricultural waste that gets produced from a harvest season. And that sparked conversations about how this waste can be given a new role or a new mission, and how that can lead or enable circular economies for the future.
And as per what you're saying, if we are adding value to the circular economy, I do believe in the UAE that we used to use the wooden branches and the date palm, where we built small boats and we integrated in various crafts. And as you said, we also use the date palm in al-arish, where we used the khus, that's the frond, and we included it in our weaving and the crafts. And we built various houses before in the past that were sustainable, and we can still bring it back, and we can still focus on how we could include such fabrics or such materials, such as the date palm, in our day-to-day life. And similarly, how in the UAE we used to mix the limestones, the corals, with the date palm fronds, and we included it in our houses, as the buildings were used to be, by doing so, insulated from the UAE's heat. Al-khus was also used in various small products that we use on daily basis. So based on today's households and from the past, Dr. Sandra, what do you think from your research and your experience about how we could include the date palm leaves in our day-to-day basis in a contemporary way? And what's your perspective on how it was in the past?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Could you see me and hear me well?
Yeah.
Hello. Great. So I first of all wanted to say good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Pleasure to be here. Thank you for invitation. And before I answer, if I may extend congratulations to the UAE, to the rulers of UAE for this amazing expo. I watched the opening and felt the sense of pride as it would be my own country. A huge thank you to Her Highness Al-Qasimi and His Highness Sultan Al-Qasimi for their leadership in promoting culture in the Emirates of Sharjah and throughout the UAE. And obviously, last not least, a massive thank you to Nama Irthi for your great help and initiation of the research. The entire team behind the scenes, but also Professor Małgorzata Ziemińska. I had a privilege to work with her, as well as Brunel University, two scientists, Professor Mizi Fan and Yong Hoo, and you saw the images from Brunel University just behind you. And last not least, the indigenous people of the United Arab Emirates, who for 7,000 years continue to inspire us with the ingenuity, how we can use date palm. I'm going to answer the question local context of Irish houses in two contexts. One is effectively people, architecture, and nature. So looking at the entire map of the UAE, and I had a privilege to research, we have three distinctive landscapes. One is a desert landscape, and historically we had Irish houses, for example, in Liwa Oasis with two down mats providing thermal cooling. We then have a typologies of mountain areas in Ras Al Khaimah and Fujairah, where we had typologies of Irish Fogassas and Kayadi, where the cooling would be at the very low level. and they're beautifully decorated, at least historically, and also coastal areas where the wind is at a high level and Arish houses would have typologies of wind towers. So all of these differences show us that Arish was used for passive cooling and generally to protect the people, but also in a very simple indigenous way, find a way how people could collaborate with their immediate environment and their local microclimates. I think what is important from the perspective of bioeconomy and the question how Arish was used is the aspect of scale that continue to fascinate me. And I think we could really talk about urban areas and oases, but also the amount of Arish houses that we would have. For example, Dubai itself would have 4,000 family houses, housing 4,000 people. And then we go down to scale, from settlements to individual houses, to furniture, and the use of coals. So this is all very, very interesting and fascinating, the biocircular economy to scale. And finally, what is happening today, as you know, that elements of circular economy, they need to be reused. I personally had the privilege to see some of the grandmothers weaving baskets inside the houses. We know that the houses are used for recreation during a winter months. But to conclude, my first title for the Arish book was Arish Revolution. And I think we still need that revolution in a sustainable context today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sandra. And when it comes to like the sustainable context that you were focusing on, it is inscribed in the UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage of Humanity that date palms to be preserved, to be able for us to include it in various houses. It's considered one of our intangible elements in the UAE, and that brings up our identity and our thoughts and our like history. And for this reason, the UAE to preserve the date palms in multiple ways, maybe in an innovative way or in a way that we could integrate it in our day-to-day life. And as the UAE work on the climate change action to consider the plantation of the date palms and to preserve this natural resource, the date palm could be preserved in various ways and to be utilized in different sectors. Ghaya, how do you think that we could do that in a local manner?
At the council, we have been employing palm frond waste, and we've been utilizing it in the craft of safifa. Safifa is palm frond weaving, and for the past couple of years, we've been developing this craft. Through experimentation, we managed to broaden the library of safifa through different weaving techniques, designs, patterns. And we've also integrated different materials with the safifa, such as camel leather, recycled felt, clay, and recently glass as well. In 2019, I was invited to be part of Crafts Dialogue. Crafts Dialogue is one of Irthi's initiatives, and it pairs Emirati designers with local designers to work on an Emirati craft alongside Irthi's artisans. I was paired with Marmelada Studio, and Marmelada Studio is a product design-based studio in Barcelona, Spain, and we were asked to work on the craft of safifa. The result or the outcome of this pairing was a production of a contemporary safifa chair that constituted of 216 safifa panels. And it was the first time where we used, or the craft of safifa was used in furniture. When we were working on the chair, we were very much interested in the dyeing process of the palm leaves. The safifa has always come in a very limited color palette, so we were quite keen on, or we were interested in expanding this color palette. And we also wanted to use natural and environmentally friendly dyes. But little did we know that the waxy surface on the palm leaves does not allow for natural dye to be absorbed really well. So as a solution, the council has collaborated with the Alchemy of Dyeing, and with their help and with their expertise, we managed to achieve more than 12 natural dye recipes that are available to all of you today in the publications Crafting of Natural Dyes, alongside the Palm Textile publication. And furthermore, what we are planning to do also as a council is that we're planning to bridge the natural dye research with the palm textile research in order to be more adaptable to design needs and to create more adaptable usages for the palm textile.
And Ghaya, I remember vividly working with you on finding various ways to dye the safifa. It is a hard material to work with. And actually, by us working together on that, it was a great outcome by finding those colors that you will find in the publication. And for this reason, if we are working together and finding those new ways to innovate the date palm and finding new ways to color the date palm fronds to integrate it in the crafts, I'm pretty sure there is different ways as well that other expertise know how to utilize such material in an international perspective. Dr. Sandra, in your perspective, how could we take the date palm in a new way and innovate it and preserve it as well for the future generation?
Sure, thank you. Can I just say how much I enjoy our conversation? It's really lovely to hear you exchanging ideas on the journey you've taken yourself. I think that the aspect of date palm is hugely important environmentally, as you just mentioned. The climate change and the bioregional context is, I think, vital. In the MENA countries, we have around 22 countries. Globally, date palm grows in the 40 countries, and I'm sure Professor Ziemińska will support me that we need a supply chain. We need to create all industries, and for that, you need economy of scale. And that as the international collaboration in the context of date palm to bring back the biocircular economy to economy itself, I think is critical. And I would encourage that bio-regional collaboration to happen. I just wanted to mention this few months ago, we had an IPCC report on climate change, the physics of science, that said very clearly that business as usual would mean that within the region, we're going to have around 8 degrees Celsius increase of temperature. So the date palm itself as something that mitigates ecosystems is critical, if not existential. And it means that probably we need to plant more date palm trees, but at the same time, we will have more waste. So I think the term that the Paris Agreement uses is non-party stakeholder. I encourage collaboration with designers, with policy enabling environment, private and business partnerships to create this enabling environment at every level for a greater engagement with date palm and biocircular economy will be critical internationally, I think, yeah.
Yeah, so basically what you were saying, by using new ways to use the waste of the date palm, we could enter the design market in a new way that actually bring forth the date palm and preserve it as well for people now and later. And as right now in the textile industries, there is a shift towards sustainable materials. Many brands around the world are considering the sustainable footprint and focusing on materials that could be integrated in their products, that could preserve their product, but at the same time be available for everyone. And by having such environmentally friendly materials included in their products, it actually makes us consider how the non-renewable resources importance is decreasing. And as for the design and craft-based brands, and their ways of using the indigenous materials in various countries, it does influence the future of textile, and it does influence the future of the design and the arts market. Dr. Malgorazda, based on your experiments and research with Irthi Contemporary Crafts Council and with Dr. Sandra, what is your take on this topic?
First of all, I would like to thank you for giving me such a great opportunity to work with exciting raw materials as data palm leaves. It was really valuable experience in my whole research track. And so thank you very much for this. Yes. Data palm leaves are completely new material from a textile viewpoint. And it is not, we don't have any industrial equipment for processing of data palm leaves to extract fibers. It is a bottleneck of this whole research. Everything we have to do by hand, and but we should remember that it is biomaterial, raw material. In this situation of climatic changes, global warming resulted from increasing of carbon dioxide emission to atmosphere, we should be focused on development of new biomaterials that are renewable and that are biodegradable. And we should think about our future generation to protect environment and to make the proper condition for the life. And so we are focused in our research to develop sustainable technology to reduce production of synthetic goods and synthetic waste production and stop produce plastics. And it is necessary in research to be focused on development of bioproducts. It means materials that can be used instead of synthetic plastics. So from this reason, we can find different possible application for data palm fibers, not only for crafts, but it is really very beautiful and nice. And if we apply natural dyes, for example, we can design more artistic, very interesting crafts for home, for garden, and so on. But apart from this, we can use such mats, such non-wovens for as insulation materials, not only thermal insulation but also acoustic insulation. So it is important, and it is a huge market for such products made from data palms. And of course, we can use this fiber also for biocomposites production as a fillers to biocomposites that can be used in different sectors of economy, bioeconomy, of course. To make elements for garden architecture, for automotive elements, transportation, and so on. Different type of application we can find for these fibers. For me, it was first time I met this data palm leaves, and thanks for such an opportunity. The fibers are very interesting, but very difficult to process. They are very stiff and coarse, and without elasticity. It is very, very difficult to apply spinning processes for these fibers. And of course, we can develop new technology to improve elasticity, but this stiffness of this fiber coming from a high level of living in the chemical composition and low level of cellulose, and from this reason, the fibers looks like that. So. But I think this data palm leaves fibers are very important to create local markets of handmade crafts for decoration. So it is very easy technology, and it is possible to do it just now. Without any special equipment in industrial scale. But if we want to think about industrial scale application, for example, for geotextiles that can be used in agriculture, so we can think about development of special machines to do it.
Correct.
It is a subject for research as well and innovation, but from my view of point, the fiber discoveries or extracted from the leaves of data palm is completely new textile material. It is innovative textile materials, and with huge potential to use it in different sectors of economy, bioeconomy, yes, and circular economy as well. We can think about application of waste created during the process, yes, but it is easy to find. At least for fertilization of culture of soil. So, yeah. Of course, it can be used as well.
I agree with you.
But it is very important domestic fiber that can support absorption on carbon dioxide from atmosphere because it is plant, yes, yes. and can help us replace the synthetic plastics and so on with natural products. So I think it is important to invest in this technologies and develop the new materials. Thanks.
Thank you. Dr. Sandra, as you say, it is a difficult material to work with. However, as we are at Irthi and the research arm at Irthi, we focused on finding various ways and experimenting to find the right and the correct way to extract such fiber. Luckily, we do have right now a prototype with an extracted fibers that could be used at homes and furniture. And as you said, maybe we could integrate it in different sectors or different materials like automobiles. And as from your perspective, Dr. Sandra, how do you think that we could find a way to influence the design and the arts market with such material based on what Dr. Malgoreza have just said?
I think carry on doing what you're doing and scale up if you can. So there is a famous saying, climate action, but I think we have Irish action here. And this is really important. And the recommendations that we all are giving as scientists is broadening out the scope of application because it's there. Yeah. So even I completely second to what Professor is saying, and that was the same statement from Brunel University in my own work. If you could imagine how Irish was used traditionally throughout these different scales, construction industry, different markets, you could reinvent a new way of doing it. And I personally think that we need hybrid solutions. So these hybrid solutions are taking the date palm fiber, mixing it with other type of fibers, which is, or biofibers, that's one aspect of it. The other thing is the aspect of mechanization. finding the way of producing small microeconomies and micro industries, actually, I would say, from date palm. And I see a scope for it, not only in the UAE, but we have to imagine Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, where there is poverty. We are constantly calling through biocircular economy for new jobs creation, how we could transfer this entire economy for new jobs, new skills in the countries that are poor. This will be a phenomenal mission. And finally, lastly, I just wanted to say I'm going to be in Dubai in a few weeks' time, and at the United Nations level, we are really interested in indigenous values. So the material itself goes back to tradition and goes back to the really amazing people of the UAE that I had the privilege to meet. And how this process of creating craft, creating industries with the indigenous values could offer something different in the market to contemporary technologies that we have and maybe question at times. The roots of it are in the UAE culture, in indigenous people, and taking this value system throughout the process will be really, really interesting thing to achieve. And finally, not lastly, the European Green Deal talks about technology transfer, that it takes around 25 years to do so. And obviously the biocircular economy is being proposed. And we have to think about young people's social aspirations, understand how people are going to use this material in the future. It takes a long time to create that market and even to create machines. So engagement with the youth education will be something very important for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. And as you said, maybe by using the different ways or different technologies for this material itself and finding ways to educate it to the younger generation where they can take it forward and be very innovative and creative to find a new way to integrate such material with others that could be integrated later on in the fashion and the design and the crafts or even technological sectors. And for that reason, it's a matter of a question. So how we can do it. If it's challenging, maybe there's another way. And that's the great thing about it, is that we can always find a new way, we can always test, and we can always experiment. And that's where lies the creativity in creating new things and bringing up new products to the market. So at Irthi Contemporary Crafts Council, and especially the research arm, we do focus on various projects for such product and material, and we're trying to find the appropriate technology for this case. And the question lies to this: will Sharjah be able to break through the international market, and especially the textile industry, and further contribute to the UAE's economy with such products? Ghaya, what's your perspective on that?
I think as a council, we learned a lot from this research about the palm tree and the palm leaves. And I think the microscopic scans that were conducted at Bernal University, they revealed so much complexity about the palm leaves than we had initially thought, which also made us wonder what other opportunities that we can innovate with as a council. We feel that there's so much depth to the palm tree and the palm leaves, and that there's so much to discover and so much potential to tap into. Yes, there are so many opportunities and potentials, but we can't also overlook the challenges that we faced. One of the challenges being is the dryness of the khus or the palm leaf itself that would cause the palm leaf to break during the fiber extraction process. So that led us to the decision of integrating an additional material with the palm leaves to support the palm leaves during the weaving process. And I also want to add that we really are at the very beginning of this research, and we still have a long way to go. So the textile that we accomplished so far is not malleable enough, but works really well for furniture, interiors, and homeware, but not necessarily for garments. However, that is where we would like to focus on next, in the hopes of making the palm textile softer and malleable, and hopefully in the future suitable for garments as well. Going back to your question, Shahad, Sharjah is a city that advocates for culture, education, research, art, design, and so much more. So I believe with the support of Her Highness Sheikha Jawahar bint Mohammed Al-Qasimi, the wife of the ruler of Sharjah, and additional research and additional documentation, I'm optimistic that Sharjah could make a breakthrough in the textile industry. And if we do manage to achieve this as a council, our aim is to support artists and designers in integrating the palm textile into furniture and other products to allow for a better and sustainable future. Thank you.
And as you said, we started first with the 1971 design space with this research, and then we moved forward with Dr. Sandra, and then with the Institute. It does take a long time for us to find a way, the appropriate way or technologies for such products, and with the aim of having the sustainable textile and integrating it to the crafts we do at Irthi. And for the design market itself, I do believe, and as us, as Irthi team, we do believe that we will find a way and the right way to have such product that would integrate and support the UAE's economy and bring forth this innovation to the city of Sharjah and the United Arab Emirates. Before we end, I would like to thank the panelists, Dr. Sandra Paisik, Dr. Malgorizda, Ghayab and Mismar, for your contribution, and we would like to invite you all to take a look on the Date Palm Textile sample before you leave. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.